let's just get into this podcast. It's the first of our Barking Mad podcast, brought to you by Bedina. So today, what are we going to be talking about? I thought to myself, everybody loves business. Who doesn't love to talk about business? So I guess let's start with that. Why don't we start off with some business talk? So let's just go to BNN, see what's happening there. Alright. Oh, Trudeau to Trump. NAFTA deal can be done right now if you want it. This is interesting. Wow. I wonder what's the conditions. So let's just turn the music off. So Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has reportedly told President Donald Trump that NAFTA agreement is immensely within reach as long as some controversial demands are set aside. Guys, just for your information, I'm gonna be making a lot of reading errors, so get used to it. That high-level conversation occurred in the midst of what many insiders view as a last ditch for a renegotiated agreement before impending political events pause the process until next year. The characterization of Trudeau's message to Trump came in a television interview in Mexico. The company minister in that country revealed some details of the leaders' chat earlier this week. When asked about this conversation with the U.S. President, Trudeau confirmed that he views a renegotiated pact as promptly attainable and publicly repeated a similar message. There is a very much an immensely achievable outcome that will be good for the United States, good for Canada, good for Mexico, and we're very close, Trudeau told the Calgary News Conference. I mean, if you think about it, I feel like isn't that what they're always saying? I guess they're getting closer, but, they're always trying to figure stuff out. We will continue in the coming days to work hard to try and get there. We know that a deal is not done until it's done, and we're going to continue to remain optimistic and hardworking on trying to get this settled. Asked whether he asked the president to pare down his wish list, Trudeau said, "We're pushing defense of our own interests, but highlighting that it's very possible to have a win-win-win." Oh wow, a triple win situation. I wonder what they got in the books. The countries are attempting to set up one more ministerial round this week, after which may become too late to meet the U.S. procedural deadlines required for a vote before the midterm elections bring in a new Congress. All three countries have some interest in wrapping up a quick deal. Canada to calm jittery business investors, Mexico to close the file before its presidential election, and the U.S. to provide stability for struggling agricultural exports. They are swimming against the tide of unresolved issues and even competing agendas. Insiders say there are mixed opinions within the U.S. administration on the value of additional rounds this week. Mounts of efforts close out to number one issue of automobiles has left a host of other irritants unfinished, including dairy, pharmaceutical, dispute resolution, public contracts, and the U.S. demand for 5-year sunset clause. Mexico's lead minister says he doesn't see a deal wrapping up this week's supposed to target date. U.S. lawmakers say that if the deal doesn't happen by Thursday, they won't be able to schedule a vote this year. It's possible next Congress will want different things in the agreement. That's interesting. Wow, that's a crazy name. Gerjardo says that. Oh my god. Come on, man. Don't do that to me. My mic just fell. But probably not soon. It is not easy "We don't believe that we'll have it by Thursday," told Mexican televised network. He also disputed the notion there is a real deadline approaching when only the thing that technically changes as of this week is that American lawmakers can't vote on the deal until 2019. Guajardo said that U.S. needs to show flexibility on demands, and he suggested Trudeau delivered a very similar message on Monday in his phone call with Trump. What Prime Minister Trudeau told him is there are ingredients there for arriving at an agreement, Guajardo said. As of this moment, you could have a negotiated deal at any time. The problem is you need flexibility from the parties. He said the American side needs to drop some of its impractical, even contradictory proposals. He specifically mentioned the U.S. idea of a sunset clause, which would automatically end NAFTA after 5 years unless all three parties extended it. Guajardo pointed out to the chaos that could cause in the auto sector. He said the U.S. is on the one hand forcing auto companies to spend next few years reorganizing their supply chains to comply with rulers of new NAFTA, while at the same time telling companies NAFTA could end in 5 years. Imagine that. Guajardo said Canadian officials would not comment on this week Trudeau-Trump call. Details of the leaders' chats are usually tightly guarded, and the government would either publicly confirm nor deny the specifics. Both countries did release sincere statements relieving that the leaders spoke Monday, but prompt conclusion of negotiation. I'm sorry for anyone that knows how to properly say these words. I'm probably massacring this, but this is interesting. So, by this article, what I'm reading is the NAFTA deal is not going to happen is because, Mexico said it can't be delivered by Thursday, and U.S. said if it's not delivered by Thursday, they're going to have to move it to next year. But I'm not really exactly sure what that means. Why can't they? I mean, isn't the new Congress going to be like Democratic or something? Well, that's interesting. Let's go to some investing news. What's happening there? Yeah. Tesla troubles prompt one-time bull to keep waving caution flag. Tesla, man, it's been going through so much issues lately. With basically they just been coming out bad news after bad news. They can't deliver their cars, first of all, and then they had all these accidents that with the Tesla car, and one of them was associated with the autopilot, which is messed up. But I don't know. You never know anymore what's going to happen. Tomorrow, Tesla might come out with news that they figured out a way to get people to Mars. So who knows? What's the next frontier for Canada's deal-hungry pot producers? Oh wow! As you guys have known, that marijuana legalization is happening here where I live here in Canada. Specifically, I live here in Alberta, and it's interesting where we're kind of at the forefront of it, and we have major companies right now just having crazy evaluations, like $3.5 billion mergers basically, and some of these companies have only made about $16 million in profit. So it's this. Let's see what's happening here. Countries like Spain, Italy, and Colombia are likely the next growth opportunities for Canadian cannabis companies after a flurry of consolidation at home. The marijuana industry saw its largest deal to date on Monday with Aurora Cannabis, exactly what this is the company I was talking about, agreeing to acquire MedRelief. Aurora Cannabis is actually located here in Calgary, or in Alberta, in Edmonton. Somewhere here in Alberta. For $2.9 billion. Oh, excuse me, I said 2.9 billion. That followed Edmonton, Alberta-based Aurora's deal to buy Candymet. Yeah, just in January, they bought another company for almost $1 billion, which is incredible. Where are they getting all this money? Canada has emerged as a global leader in the pot industry as it becomes the first G7 country to legalize the drug for recreational use later this year, while the ban at the federal level keeps pure-play U.S. pot companies from major exchanges south of the border. There are now 90 publicly listed companies in Canada with a market value of $31 billion. Recent mergers and acquisitions have given the companies the scale to start looking internationally for growth, said Dan, whatever the guy's name, Chief Executive Officer for Canaccord Genuity Group. They're another investment company, a lending Canadian investment bank in the sector. Countries like Germany, for example, allow patients to be reimbursed for medical marijuana to treat the variety of symptoms, he said. It's not just about population, Davio said. It's also about the government's realization that a product is good for lots of different indications. Canadian firms have right cost of capital and industry knowledge add value, he said. Full disclosure, I'm invested into some marijuana companies, specifically Aurora Cannabis, so this is pretty good for me. Yeah, I'm pretty happy about this deal, but honestly, it hasn't affected the stock price of Aurora, so I'm not exactly sure what's happening. Niche players. At the same time, there's still plenty of options for smaller Canadian firms, he said. The smaller guys and the guys in the middle need to decide what their strategy is. The chief executive officer said, the biggest isn't always the best. There are going to be some more big guys and some more smaller niche guys. U.S. cannabis companies are increasingly looking to raise capital and list in Canada to become one of the sophisticated investor base here, said Graham Sanders, Canaccord's vice chairman and head of capital markets organization. I don't know. All these companies are in a race, he said. The faster you can use capital and deploy it properly and accretively, the better off you're going to be. Los Angeles-based MedMen Enterprises, for example, raised $50 million in subscription receipts last month in Canada ahead of its planned reserve takeover of Vancouver-based Landura Ventures Corp. Wow. Sanders said that I don't know how to say that. I'm sorry, guys, for whoever knows how to say that name properly. So the U.S. capital markets for the cannabis are where Canada was 2 or 3 years ago. It's easier here. We don't have listing problems for cannabis assets that there is in the U.S. Canaccord is hosting a cannabis conference in New York this week and has about 700 attendees enrolled. The broadening investor base in Canada is starting to attract the country's biggest banks, led by Bank of Montreal, which landed a mandate to advise Aurora on its takeover of MedReleaf. Dave Iowa said he wasn't concerned about big banks coming into the space, in part because Canaccord has a 2-year lead in the sector. It's good for us, honestly, he said. It continues to legitimize the industry and broaden the investor base. Yeah, that is pretty good for me. I really do like that part. Wow. Yeah. Let's see what's actually happening. How some of the stocks did today. Just go over this. Marijuana legalization driving up demand for commercial real estate in Alberta. Wow. That's interesting. Canadian billionaire Charles Baughman. Okay, so Aurora Cannabis, there you go, that's what I'm talking about. Didn't do that well today. Minus 1%. Afreya, wow, 7% today. Canopy Growth. THCX did good too. MedReleaf. They were doing really good yesterday, so this is not too bad. They kind of just stabilized. Organogram, they're also another big one. Yeah, all these companies, as you can see, they're minus 5%. You know, they're crazy prices right now. Like $1.60, $1.30. Like these companies, this Supreme Cannabis, for example, they were priced about, I think, $5 just 2 months ago, and then The Jeff Sessions stuff happened in the US where he said that he wasn't going to allow cannabis anymore, and then just dropped. It had a high of like $4 at one point, I remember. Like some of the days, it doesn't show here. This was its like closing. So it closed at its ever highest point was $3.30, right there. Then it fell, but this company, it will definitely come back here. You know, that's 100% increase on your money right there. But you know, who's gonna talk about this? Nobody. I guess let's just go see what's let's just see in the markets what's happening, how some other markets did. This the Toronto Stock Exchange didn't do that bad today. I mean, you never really know with these things. Is it recording? Let's go to the daily. Oh, look, did pretty good today. If you got right there, you could have got a nice little ride. Is this thing recording? It looks like it's going to run out of battery soon, which is unfortunate. I mean, it is what it is. But I guess that's enough of news. Let's see what's happening on YouTube. Mythbusters. Nah, I don't want to watch that. Dangerous, biggest word turning, big. Oh, let's see this. What's this? Oh, it's a long video. Wow, that's So for the people that are listening and not watching the video, I'm watching basically they're going to turn a log, a big cherry burl in a lathe. That's a huge lathe. Wow, it's on the ground, the posts of the lathe. Wow. And they're going to make a post out of it, of some sort, like a wood post for stairs. Yeah, this is pretty dangerous. I can't believe people do stuff like this. Like, you know, this is just somewhere in the Philippines. I don't know exactly where it is, but how many people are just doing these DIY crafts, and they're just master craftsmen just all over the world. Like, this guy definitely knows what he's doing. It's a huge log, man. That's the log could be anywhere from, yeah, it could be about 300, 400 pound log. It's a huge log, and they're spinning this log, and it's probably about lengthwise, I would say maybe probably 9 feet, 8 feet, and they're spinning this log in this lathe, and this, like, I don't think people understand that if the log flies off and it hits him, he's dead. That's a strong blade. Oh, my video decided to freeze. Come on, shitty internet. Oh, there we go. Wow. So I think he's Okay, he's just making it more straight now on the ends. You know, this is one of the things that I always loved, just lathes. You know, people really underestimate it, but I think we need more lathe in this world. Wood turning. We need to wood turn and stuff. Oh, he's marking. That's a sample he has, I guess. Wow, look at that. Oh, that's beautiful wood. This wood that I'm looking at, people, it's incredible. Wow. As you know, I don't know, I make some wood stuff, some wood crafts. So I'm kind of into this kind of little spiral thing I made. Currently, I'm just making little chess pieces. I haven't made any good ones yet, but you know, I'm just trying my best. So I'm really into this, like woodworking and carving. I guess let's see what he ends up doing. Skip to the end. Look at that. That's just so hypnotizing, man. So soothing, I bet. Wow. The post is almost finished, basically. He's like, just gotta do some finishing touches. That's it. Guess let's watch a different video. Let's see what's happening in the world. My daily life's in the slums. Making a flat mug with the... You know what we should actually want to show? Watson bequest. Woodson bequest. There we go. So this is the Rothschild collection, and I'm mesmerized by this artwork. I'll let this guy explain.
The great Rothschild house in Buckinghamshire, Waddesdon Manor, and when Baron Ferdinand wanted to give them to the British Museum so that they could be enjoyed by everybody,
like, this is incredible.
Connection with Waddesdon to remain, and so we've always called it since then the Waddesdon bequest.
So, I'm just, I don't know how to explain. I don't have words to describe
we all think because of Downton Abbey
how much I admire the architecture and like just the artwork and the craftsmanship that goes in.
Had a much more serious purpose. They were places to entertain the great and the good, and they were places to show off really your wealth and your success and that you had arrived. And there were these tremendous house parties, and you'll get Queen Victoria, you'll get Edward VII, you'll get Trollope, you'll get Henry James, you'll get the Shah of Persia. And the people you won't necessarily notice are probably the more important people, the people who did the business deals, the movers and shakers. That was really, you know, what the country house party, certainly for Ferdinand, was about. So Waddesdon was quite literally a 3D calling card.
I think Baron Ferdinand enjoyed dressing up, and we have these wonderful photographs of him in Renaissance
costume. Oh, come on,
my
video just froze.
Which show him looking quite ridiculous in Renaissance costume as a Renaissance prince.
Yeah, he was
wearing hat badges very like the one in the Waddesdon bequest. Or
he was an interesting fella.
Very like the one in the Waddesdon bequest, which is very much part and parcel of his own time. If you think of Oscar Wilde's novel The Portrait of Dorian Gray, he portrays Dorian Gray as someone who loves emeralds and loves dressing up and wearing Renaissance princely costume. Well, it's just the same with Ferdinand.
It's pretty luxurious.
Theatrical dressing up element in Ferdinand's collection, which probably goes very well with Waddesdon Manor.
This is the famous Red Book.
Come on, man. Oh my god, like, how can I film? How can I do anything with this kind of internet? This is bullshit. I shouldn't have to deal with this in this 21st century world. No. I don't understand why don't we have some crazy internet yet already. Like, how come, how have they not figured it out? In Korea, apparently they got crazy Wi-Fi. I guess they're a lot closer. The cities are a lot closer there too. Like half Wi-Fi, but I don't know. Maybe it's just my computer. It's probably my shitty computer. It's always my shitty computer, isn't it?
What's in the quest is one of the great collections.
Okay, let's go
in the
back.
ballroom, via the smoking room.
Oh, the smoking
The
room.
smoking room has a very distinct personality.
It's delicious. I
Elsewhere
love
in
the smoking
house,
room.
You could be forgiven for thinking that you're in an 18th century Parisian hotel, whereas in the smoking room you're in a very different world. And I think that Ferdinand was setting the scene here in a very particular way for his Renaissance museum.
He was surrounded by Rothschilds, all of whom, as soon as they'd made some money,
Wow,
started to collect rather aggressively.
they're a rich family, aren't they?
I believe in genes, don't you? The Rothschild genes clearly have a sort of mania for collecting. It was partly his father's collection which he inherited.
Look at that.
I think when Anselm Rothschild saw the Holy Thorn reliquary, he knew that this was not just one of the great moments of medieval metalwork. It was also one of the most precious things he was ever likely to be able to acquire, and extraordinarily rare.
Yeah, this is incredible.
Thorn said to be from the crown of thorns put on Christ's head at the crucifixion is surrounded by the most valuable materials: rock crystal, jewels, gold, enamel, so that you have the most spiritually precious object surrounded by the most materially valuable things. And I think that combination
Just incredible.
of
Just
very
how
high
did they
quality,
create this at the
very
time?
rich materials,
Just by hand.
and ultimate rarity, well, that's irresistible to any collector.
Yeah, that's for sure.
For Ferdinand, collecting was really very genuinely part of his DNA. We know that from a very early age he was fascinated by collections and collecting. And I have this vision of him following his father Anselm around, sort of learning, at his father's knee almost.
Yeah.
In his reminiscences, he records his first exposure to his father's collection. My father's curiosities were packed and stored away in a strong room, where they remained until the cold
Drove us
drove
back again from the country. It was my privilege on these occasions to place some of the smaller articles in their own leather cases. Merely to touch them sent a thrill of delight through my small frame.
This is incredible.
So this is one of the most spectacular objects in the Waddesdon bequest, and it's also one of my favourites. It's a boxwood tabernacle, and it's incredibly sculptural and architectural, as you can see in its form. It's like a miniature building, and all the pieces come apart so that you can play with them.
I'm amazed
So
right
it's
now.
got a very strong
I have no
playful
words.
quality. Playing with those pieces, each time you reveal new scenes from the Christian story. You take off the pelican and her piety finial, and these sections open out like orange segments, and on the inside each is carved with yet another scene.
This is
and
like,
in the middle is
how?
the Virgin Mary, who rises up when you turn this little ratchet.
How
So
did they do
it's
that?
really an interactive toy for taking you closer to the Christian story. Perhaps the most intricate piece of all is this, which is a prayer nut, or Betnus in German. The outside is carved with these extraordinary pieces of Gothic tracery. You
How
can
did they-
imagine
how
yourself
did they
walking
do
around
this? I don't under-
architectural form of the prayer nut. It's a bit like some astonishing Gothic cathedral. And when you open it up, there are yet
So what
two
she's
more
describing,
things which are
people,
carved
she's
with
holding
scenes
in her
from
hand.
Christ.
This
And
is
when you open
basically a
those,
monastery
the top
in her
half is
hand,
carved with the scene of the
detailed.
crucifixion in incredible detail. It's like a miniature theatre.
I always find it an incredibly moving thing to handle. It's a very personal, intimate kind of object. And then the craftsmanship is so astonishing that every time you look at it, you notice something different, and it really comes to life in your hands.
Yeah,
You can imagine the person who first owned this object playing with it and
who,
handling
who
it.
made it?
And I'm sure that's what Baron Ferdinand did when he showed it to his visitors in the smoking room.
Oh my god.
You have to remind yourself that, you know, his wife had died in childbirth, and that really was a dominating and depressing factor throughout his life.
Very
And
sad.
he wrote this rather sad piece: "Mine is a loss which years cannot repair, nor any accidental circumstances relieve. Ever since my childhood, I was attached to her. The older I became, the more we met, the deeper I loved her, and in later years she'd so grown into my heart that my only wishes, cares, joys, affections, whatever sentiments in fact a man can possess, were directly or indirectly wound up with her existence."
Wow. It's just
Sad piece.
amazing.
He found human relationships, I think, difficult. He liked inviting people here, but they weren't really close friends. And the one absorbing passion in his life was this property. And he wanted to create, both on the inside and the outside, something which was coherent and remarkable.
He really loved the idea of walking into a room and being surrounded by European culture, European history.
Yeah, it's
It
amazing
wasn't
architecture,
just that they were showing off. You have to
craftsmanship.
remember that only 100 years before, they'd lived in a ghetto in Frankfurt where they hadn't had enough food.
If you are a Jewish family in the mid-19th century, you're trying to establish yourself. So you collect in order to tell the people around you that you're not going anywhere. This is
It's just incredible.
theatre. It's 15th century performance. What you've got is you've got every single kind of movement going on here. You've got coiling, you've got dripping, you've got this incredible, powerful kind of transitive pushing, and kind of thrusting of these great kind of sticky gobstopper blues.
I wonder where they
and
found
reds
these items,
actually into the
and the
glass.
items that we don't
It's an
know
object
about.
For the Kunstkammer, for the Wunderkammer, for these spaces which are just filled with treasures.
It's a Dublin cup.
The Kunstkammer means an art chamber or an art
For the
room.
people that are
Well,
listening to
merchant
my
bankers like the Medici,
listening to this,
Fuller,
please
or
go on
merchant
YouTube and search up
banking of the Renaissance.
A Mania for
They're also
Collecting,
ruled by
the
Habsburgs,
Rothschilds and the
who were the
Waddetson
ruling dynasty
Bequest.
of half the then known
It's
world
posted
in
by the
16th
British
century.
Museum. You won't regret it. It's just
a Renaissance
mesmerizing.
idea made real by a 19th century banker.
The Rothschilds, in a way, were tying themselves by provenance to former movers and shakers. And they used these objects very deliberately to make that association.
Yeah, it's incredible.
In creating kind of a Rothschild Kunstkammer, he's saying very clearly, this is who we are, this is what I'm doing. I'm looking back to these precedents, and I'm making a collection of that type.
This, the light jewel, I suppose it's just resonant because it's this sort of famous, incredibly valuable, historic object that is, you know, and it's when you pick it up, its density is not just physical, but it's sort of emotional and historical as well.
Wow,
And just the sheer
I wonder. I want to
number
go to this
of
museum.
man hours in something like this.
Just
Um,
there's simply not. There's just not enough words in this world to describe the work that went into these things. It's incredible. And you have to remember that they made these things with simply hand tools. I mean, obviously they were, I'm sure they had perfect conditions, but that doesn't mean anything. No. We have perfect conditions now, but, you know, nobody's creating amazing things anymore. Yeah. Well, well, there's people creating amazing things. No, never mind. I don't know why I said that, but just I don't know. Just being pushed to your limits with like craftsmanship. It's like it's not being done anymore. It's people that rather use power tools. But don't get me wrong, the products they make come out amazing, but it's very rare to find someone that's truly making everything by hand, because it's too much time, and why do it? Living on the most crowded island on Earth. Let's see this.
A 2-hour boat ride off the coast of Colombia is an island.
Wow.
The most densely populated island on Earth.
That's pretty cool. I wonder who started it all.
Santa Cruz del Islote consists of more than 1,200 people living on land the size of 2 soccer fields, making it 4 times as dense as Manhattan. On the island is a school that runs up to the 10th grade, 2 shops and 1 restaurant. There is no steady supply of water and a sole generator that only runs for 5 hours per day. There are no police, but there isn't much need for them, as everyone on the island knows each other. 150 years ago, the island was primarily uninhabited and was sometimes used by local fishermen as a place to rest and take shelter during storms. Gradually, some fishermen came to build their homes here. These were the grandparents and great-grandparents of the current generation of residents.
It's pretty cool.
Despite the close living quarters, inhabitants on the island say they wouldn't give up their peaceful existence for anything, not even a little more room.
This island I'm looking at is like...
The village of Kamikatsu is special, not for its tea fields or idyllic mountains or peaceful historic homes. It's known for something it doesn't
How beautiful is Japan?
Kamikatsu, as a town, produces almost no trash. Kamikatsu has a population of roughly 1,500 people, and in the 1990s was doing nearly no recycling.
This is like recycling on steroids, basically, for people that are listening to the Japanese.
Burning all that garbage created carbon dioxide emissions that became dangerous, and the nature around them was suffering, so a decision was made. Kamikatsu had to change. This was the start of their path towards zero waste.
Yeah, why can't we do something like this? I don't understand. I guess I should start it instead of talking about it.
Effectively, what zero waste here means is that there's no such thing as throwing something in the trash.
Yeah,
everything has to get recycled.
I don't understand, we should just, why don't we do something like that, where we just take care of our garbage?
And in the beginning, it was difficult for everyone.
Oh, that's for sure.
Like Mr. Takuya Takaichi. He's a shop owner in Kamikatsu.
ゼロウエスト運動が始まってから生活自体はやっぱりある意味ちょっと負担になりましたよね。
Oh, he said it was really hard for him. Okay, I see why we don't do it. Never mind. It's really time consuming to separate all the garbage.
Katayama. She's a housewife.
For
the people that are listening, check out this YouTube channel. It's called Great Big Story. They're basically an advertisement channel, and they come and, I don't know, do a story about your whatever you want about and make it into a kind of video that's more organic than an ad, but it's really cool. The video I'm watching right now, it's called Japan's Town with No Waste, and essentially it's a town with, they figured out a way to, well, they didn't figure it out, it's kind of time consuming. They separate all their garbage into like 12 or like 15 different categories.
Burden became a way of life in Kamikatsu. People began looking at trash differently.
物を大事にするという気持ちが逆にできたという。仕入れに行って出るゴミで段ボールがやっぱり多いですね。きれい段ボールはまた再利用して梱包したりするに使えますね。
So he says, so I guess it's changed the way he's adapted basically, essentially, and that's what I think that, you know, it's going to take time, maybe a year, but we'll adapt.
では正直全くしてなくて、ゴミはすべて一つのゴミ箱に捨てれたので、食べ残しとかは基本コンポストに契約している農家さんの畑。
Look at that, leftover food goes into basically a composter and becomes fertilizer for the local farm, which grows vegetable for the restaurant.
It's
pretty cool.
野菜にまた変わるっていう、なんかちょっとしたこう循環するサイクルができると、使う側としてもやっぱり意識は変わるし。
It's important to recognize that Kamikatsu is a small town. It is not like New York or London. The rules are not the same, but there is a constant, and that's people. They can change.
どんな社会問題も一緒だと思ってるんですけれども、取り組んだところでなくならないじゃないかって。
I feel like Japanese people are just like over, like, I don't know, like they're like not happy, but they're just like so excited to be alive. Yeah, it's a good thing though.
Today's journey takes us to the Dutch town of Nctrnm. Nctrnm is just like any normal town, with one exception. Roads. They don't have them.
That's I always thought about this thing. We should do this. It's pretty cool. Should have this everywhere.
Met de fiets op de plek van bestemming komen. En anders moet het lopen gebeuren.
Wow. I would love to live in this town.
Ik ben per
It's like a dream come true to live in a town like this.
Van Nctrnm. Nou, er zijn 2400
So
inwoners.
the town basically has no roads, no cars, just boats. That's what the video is called, and yeah, it's essentially that. All their roads are water, and they just use boat to get around. That's incredible.
1100 huizen.
And boats. Lots of boats.
It's pretty cool.
Een goede dag zitten er ongeveer zo'n 500, 600 bootjes hier wel op hier in Nctrnm.
That's Jan, one of the town's resident boat builders. He's known for punters, a flat-bottom boat that originated in Nctrnm.
Is wel ontstaan in Nctrnm, maar momenteel gaan ze echt over
boat
de
making.
hele
I
wereld.
want to make a boat.
And where there are boats, there are bridges. 167 to be exact. And just like any town, people need their groceries, their furniture, their beer, you name it. But in Nctrnm, they must pass through Anton. He's the town's bridge guard.
So I guess it's pretty secure, huh?
Dan ligt het dorp stil. Op een drukke dag ongeveer 300 boten, waar we dus de opening voor verzorgen.
One of those boats is the fireboat. This is Bart and Eric.
In ieder geval de plek waar wij dus met de auto niet kunnen komen.
They're so happy.
Ja, veel plek.
Man, I would love this town.
Dus voor blussing van brand gaan we eruit. Maar ook voor het redden van eventueel drenkelingen, boten die...
They save people from sinking. They got there on fire. They got probably on police. It's incredible, man. The world we're living in, and just we got so much stupid stuff happening. You know, that's the one thing that I never understood. You know, there's a lot of negative things I understand, but what about all the good things? You know, why don't we like not just be blind, but I don't know, I just don't understand. It's not as bad as people make it out to be. Like, the world is pretty good. It's not that bad. We're getting there. Just slowly but surely. Slowly but surely. Is this thing recording? Okay, this thing. My battery is going to die, so let's end it with this. This robotic arm puts a 5-star chef in your kitchen. Wow, this is incredible. So, for the people that are listening to the video, basically what's the robot, that you can buy a robot, put in your kitchen, and it's this kind of like its own little area, and it cooks for you.
Your meals for you every day of your life. This is the dream and the goal that Molly Robotics is trying to accomplish. They have created the first fully automated and intelligent robots that can learn recipes, cook all kinds of foods with remarkable precision, and then clean up after themselves. Molly Robotics built a working prototype of the Molly Kitchen. This futuristic-looking workstation is equipped with advanced robotic arms and hands that can grip kitchen utensils.
This is what we need. We need this in every single house.
You name it, they can do it.
And that's
Master Chef winner Tim Anderson was hired on as Molly's development chef and helped the robotics team teach the robots how to cook by using motion capture gloves and wristbands, much like a video game. This means you can potentially record the movements of other famous chefs and have a meal prepared for you indirectly by, let's say, Chef Gordon Ramsay.
You're in denial!
Molly Robotics recently launched a crowdfunding campaign looking for investors and potential testers of the prototype kitchen to help them improve the robot's ability. Molly believes that they can do for cooking what smartphone devices have done for communications.
Well, that's crazy. Like this. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is just a fine example of how it's getting better. Like, let me show you guys something else. I don't know if you've heard of Boston Dynamics, but it's a robotics company, and they've just come out with this, which this is mind-blowing. Look at this. So essentially, it's just a humanoid robot that can run, and it can jump over obstacles. Like, pretty, like, you guys need to watch this video for the people that are listening. It's called Getting Some Air Atlas Boston. It's Boston Dynamics. Look at this. It just jumps over a log. How is this possible, people? This is incredible. Wow. Did you see that? Did you see how it... Look at that. Like, I just... What is happening to us? Where are we? We're slowly being gonna merge with robots. Just watch. Well, anyways, that's a thought that I'll leave you. What do you guys think? You think we're gonna merge with robots one day? If let me know what I can improve on, and make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, and have a great day.